Why are the kids in our neighborhood just like hooting and hollering at all times? Like, I don't remember hooting so much as a child.
I don't either.
Like, did you ever just like go through your neighborhood going like, yahoo, yippee?
No, I certainly didn't.
And sometimes they just scream.
Just scream.
They're playing soccer and then all of a sudden it's like, Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Ride Home Podcast. My name is Abby.
Hey guys, it's Caitlin.
We needed to catch up on 3 of the Best Picture nominees.
Yes.
2 we just haven't gotten to. 1 we are dreading.
Ugh, we've been putting it off literally as long as possible.
I have booked and rebooked tickets for us to see Avatar. I think it's 4 or 5 times now.
I think we're on about our 4th circuit.
But we like officially are going tomorrow. So it's going to happen. Maybe.
We are. Apparently, we are. 3 hours of my life I'll never get back.
We have left Women Talking and Avatar, and then our third and last one, which we watched at home because you can rent it, is Triangle of Sadness, directed and I believe also written by Ruben Östlund.
Mm-hmm.
The cast member that's going to stand out for everybody is Woody Harrelson.
For sure.
And then it also stars Harris Dickinson, who has been in a couple of things. He was actually in Where the Crawdads Sing. Did you put that together?
Oh, shit.
I'm just going to give a spoiler right now. Much better in this movie than he was in Crawdads.
Honestly, we can't fault him for Crawdads. That's clearly a
We can't fault
directing
anybody
and
in Crawdads.
No.
And then it also stars Dolly De Leon. And we're just going to kick it off with, do you want to read the Google synopsis before we get into the non-spoiler section?
Yeah, I would love to read the Google synopsis. Also, before I do that, I just want to give a quick shout out to the director and writer. He's Swedish, and I am almost half Swedish.
Do you know I'm like 30% Swedish?
That's crazy.
Yeah. My little DNA ancestry results keep updating, and every time I'm more and more Swedish.
Same.
But also, I look more Swedish than you.
Yeah, I don't look Swedish at all, which is interesting. So, Triangle of Sadness here. Carl and Yaya, a couple of influencers.
Like how it's phrased.
I love that.
A couple of influencers
are invited to a luxury cruise ship alongside a group of out-of-touch wealthy people. The situation takes an unexpected turn when a brutal storm hits the ship. That about sums it up for me. We'll just leave it at that podcast.
Yep. They actually said the title of the movie within, I think, 3 minutes.
It was definitely under 5 minutes.
And we were just like, all right, that's it.
That's it.
Triangle Sadness.
Turn it off.
It's done.
It's over.
They never mentioned it again, by the way. I think he just wrote that line and loved it so much that he made it the title of the movie, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
So, all that being said, we're going to kick it off, as always. Caitlin, what did you think about Triangle of Sadness?
So, initially, I felt a little bit like how I felt after we saw Everything Everywhere All at Once.
So, you were like, no.
I would say I wasn't quite as strongly against this movie.
Okay.
But I was very unsure. When this movie ended, I was just kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what to make of that.
I kind of sensed that from you. Like, you didn't really have like a reaction. Like, you're just kind of like, oh, okay.
I felt unsure. That's my initial thoughts. Unsure. Upon further processing, because this is a movie I think I just really needed to think about a little bit more and process some of the pieces of it, I liked it.
Okay.
I thought that there were some really funny parts.
Hilarious.
Some really good social commentary. Some very good character development.
Yeah.
And some good storytelling.
Yeah.
So initially wasn't sure. Thought I might hate it. And then kind of came around to it.
Was it the throw up?
The throw up was a huge turnoff.
So that is actually a huge hang up for a lot of people just to like see this movie. And I actually didn't tell you about it because I was worried that you were not going to agree to even watch it in the first place. But if you go to YouTube and you look up this movie, the literal thumbnail that they use for the trailers for this movie is the Russian lady throwing up, like projectile vomiting.
What an odd choice for marketing.
I mean, I guess they're just being honest. They're being upfront about it.
Yeah, they're like, guys, there's gonna be projectile vomiting.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say right off the bat that we're not gonna spoil anything further than seasickness happens. We'll talk about it later in the spoiler section.
Sure.
But if you have a weak stomach, make sure you have like saltines and ginger ale nearby.
And also the remote so you can mute it.
Also the remote so you can mute it. Turn away if you have to. Just be prepared if you're going into this movie. I will say that I also was a little... I don't want to say the word was put off by that scene, but it was almost so nauseating that it turned me off from what I was watching, and it took me such a long time to get back into it that I also, when it ended, was like, did I like that?
Yeah.
But that being said, we were audibly wheezing, laughing, cracking up, like the heaviest we've laughed probably since oh my god, what's it called?
Oh, Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Yeah. So I don't know why I just completely zoned out on that.
I was just going to say Nick Cage.
So that's all. Well, that was where I was going next, and you went there. So, but I feel like we haven't laughed that hard since that movie. And this movie being a comedy, if you're looking at it as like, does it make you laugh? Absolutely, 100%. Sure. It makes you laugh. I thought there were some odd choices that it took a while for me to get into the movie. So it spends a lot of time in the beginning introducing us to Yaya and Carl. And when I mean a lot of time, I mean a lot of time.
The whole first act.
The whole first act is just getting to know them and their relationship. And I couldn't really get into the first part. It was taking me a while to like be interested and to follow along. There were some really long shots, especially in the beginning, where it was so long that the actor's movement, they dipped out of frame like completely and then would come back in.
Yeah.
And it was so stationary, and I don't know what the word that I want to use is, but like it felt dry to me. And also they had this weird audio thing where for some reason in every scene there was one really loud, annoying sound, and it was only in those beginning sections. So when they were in the car, the windshield wipers were squeaking. And when they were first on the boat, there was like a bunch of flies flying around, but like the audio of the flies and the audio of the wipers were way louder than they were, like they were speaking. And I don't know if I'm like just dumb and I didn't get the symbolism for that, but like I was sitting there thinking like they're doing this on purpose and I don't know why.
Yeah.
And it really frustrates me when that happens in movies where I feel like I'm being played by the director.
And you're like, what was the purpose
I'm
of
just
this
like, yeah.
choice?
Especially because all of his themes for the entire movie are so on the nose that those camera and audio choices, I couldn't really connect to them because I was a little lost and confused, and also didn't know if they even like had a purpose, if he was just kind of
adding
just, like,
making a little weird choice.
Yeah. That being said, I completely agree with you that the storytelling was phenomenal. I really truly, once we got into the second and third acts, I enjoyed it thoroughly. Some of the characters in the second half of the movie are so good and so funny and so charismatic and so big that like somehow they like outshined Woody Harrelson. Which to outshine him is very impressive.
Extremely impressive and hard to do. We both love him. He's great in this movie. But the cast as a whole was fantastic. And I really connected to a lot of them. And again, the themes of Eat the Rich, basically. It was so incredibly on the nose, but hilarious. I mean, there's this one scene where two characters are actively discussing like the differences between capitalism and communism while they're drunk. And like you could see the themes play out not only in like the characters and the setting, but literally they just directly addressed them at some time. Right.
Which I don't know if you'll agree with me, but if I was to take a movie from 2022 that was about the hyper wealthy and Instagram culture and how out of touch people are.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was to nominate one of those for Best Picture, it wouldn't have been this one. It would have been The Menu.
Yeah. I have to agree with you.
And so I think I can accept my own bias here and acknowledge that I feel fussy. I can acknowledge that even though I really and truly did enjoy this movie, it's frustrating me that it is getting more praise than The Menu, because I think The Menu was overall a better movie. I think it was a funnier movie in a smarter way. This movie was like almost like slapstick comedy funny.
Yeah.
The scenes that were funny were very raunchy or slapstick or gross humor.
Yeah.
Whereas like The Menu was so layered and dark and hilarious, and they both made the same points. Like they were both making the same commentary.
For sure.
Completely different stories, completely different characters, but they were pointing in the same direction.
They were. And I think kind of had a similar feel and tone also.
Yeah.
Really what The Menu had that, in my opinion, Triangle of Sadness didn't have was just a little bit of finesse.
Yeah.
And I think it was just a little less, like you said, a little less on the nose, a little less in your face with all of it.
This movie felt a little bit like Ruben Östlund, which I haven't seen his work before. I don't know anything about him. But it felt a little indulgent on his part. Like he got carried away a little bit with certain elements, certain vomiting scenes, we'll say. And there were some jokes that were almost so direct that they weren't funny.
Yes.
And I wasn't sure if I was supposed to laugh or not. And so I felt like the audience at The Menu, when they were like dead silent and weird, at certain points in this movie, I was like, is this a serious part? Am I supposed to be laughing?
Yes. And I honestly noticed that because there were times where I was laughing and you weren't. And I was like, oh, is that not supposed to be funny? Like, right. And I was like,
and I think there were times that I was chuckling that you weren't.
Right. So maybe it was just like playing on that of like,
I guess,
appeasing to all different types of senses of humor or something.
Yeah.
And maybe like you said, I think that is a little bit indicative of some of the indulgence that he took. I think he, like you said, we haven't seen his other work, so we don't know if this is just his deal. And like, he's just like, fuck it. Like, we're just going to go all out.
As far as you can go.
But that's what he did for this one.
Yeah. Despite being fussy and a little bit upset that this wasn't, that this was the choice over The Menu, and that this is getting more praise than The Menu, which also, interestingly enough, I checked the Rotten Tomatoes score. The Menu does have a higher Rotten Tomatoes score.
Okay, I was going to ask you that, because this one only has a 72.
I saw that, and I'm very curious as to how this got enough of a push to be in the Oscars conversation. And we can like talk about this later when we do like an Oscars focused episode.
And we will.
But I think for now, I'm just going to say that I'm a little disappointed that it is in the conversation. But that being said, I still enjoyed the movie, and I think it's worth a watch, especially if you have a strong stomach.
Yes, specifically if you do have a strong stomach.
Please don't watch this movie if you have any fears of excrement or vomit or bodily functions.
Do you know the name for the fear of throwing up?
No.
It's called emetophobia.
Emetophobia.
And I feel as though I might have that.
I feel like if you actually have the fear of throw up, like you literally wouldn't be able to finish the movie.
Okay.
So if you have a legitimate fear of throw up to that extent, please do not watch this movie.
Yeah.
But if you're mildly uncomfortable with throw up, just put it on mute and look away like Caitlin did.
And I literally, like, I said out loud, I can't. Like, I was just like, I absolutely cannot partake in any of this.
Yeah. Despite the throw up, though, I will say that the standout performance is absolutely Dolly De Leon, who plays Abigail. She's like a housekeeper on the ship. Incredible performance. She's so literally just worth the watch to see her, because I haven't ever seen her in anything, and she was so excellent, and her character is so good.
She left no crumbs.
And she also was the Filipino version of my aunt, which freaked me out. Like, it literally looked exactly like my aunt, but Filipino.
Yes.
And it blew my mind every time she was on camera because I thought I was just watching my Aunt Kathy play Abigail.
I loved that. Like, you were just like, wait, she's a little bit the Asian version of my Aunt Kathy.
And you've never even met my aunt, and it clicked for you. You were like, wait, yes, she is.
I was like, 100%. Like, I saw it immediately, and then I like couldn't unsee it.
It was just stuck in your brain.
Yes.
What is your popcorn score for this movie?
Oh, this is going to be a tough one for me.
It's a little tough one.
I think it's a medium for me.
Were you teetering medium small or medium large?
I was teetering medium large.
Okay. All right.
Because I thought it was really smart. I thought it was a really smart movie. I think that he could have toned it down a little bit. I thought it went a little ham. Yeah. And it didn't need to go quite that hard. This is one of those movies that I can't stop thinking about. And the more I do think about it, the more I like it. And so because of that, I am teetering on medium and large. I think part of the reason why I can't stop thinking about this movie is because it, to me, I felt like was very original. And just its production and its directing and its choreography, if that makes sense. Like, I thought it was a very unique perspective. Although it was very similar to the menu, I just felt like it was just constructed in a way that we really haven't seen a story be told.
Right.
And it was just cool. I don't know. I thought it was very well done. And I just, like you said, I'm excited for the spoiler section because there were some characters that really stuck with me. Like, not for like any profound reason. Like, I'm like, man, like, what a character. But just like, because like you said earlier, they were so charismatic. Yeah. And I'm just like a little bit obsessed with some of them. Yeah. And they were just so fun to watch. And so it was just that, you know, and there were just some really funny scenes. And if you can make me laugh that hard, like, I'm gonna still be thinking about it. Right. You know, just like we did with the Nick Cage movie. Like, that movie just really surprised me, and I feel like this movie surprised me too. I didn't expect that I was gonna like it as much as I did. Yeah,
I think this movie was a complete surprise for me also, where I, especially because of the first half, I really thought I was gonna hate it. Not the first half, but the first act. I really thought I was gonna hate it, and I think it took me a little bit of time to realize what the chip on my shoulder was. And when I put the pieces together, that I was just like a little bit upset that this was the choice instead of the menu, which was, you know, one of my favorite movies from this year. Right. Once I took that piece away and I evaluated it, because we watched this movie over the weekend and now we're recording a few days later, and I just have to say it's a large for me now.
Is it?
It took me a good long while to unpack it, but once I pushed aside that bias and once I realized that, sure, the first act isn't maybe how I would have set it up or how I would have done it, but it doesn't take away from how much I adored the second and third acts. Yeah. I thought the second and third acts were so good. And like you were saying, there are some characters that I'm just completely obsessed with. Yes. And the whole cast is just so good. The writing was just so fun. And like you said, it was so original that now I'm okay with like putting that anger aside and being like, well, this is still a large for me. Right. Would I still nominate the menu over this? Absolutely 1,000% every single day of the week. Yeah. But Triangle of Sadness is absolutely up there in my favorites from this year, and 1,000% deserves a large popcorn.
Wow, look at the growth.
Are you shocked?
I am shocked. I'm proud. No, I mean, I think it is one of those ones that you kind of have to sit with a little bit.
I'm glad we waited to record, because I probably would have given it, I would have said it was like a low medium for me when I first, again, you just have to get over the bile.
You do. You have to get over that, and you do just have to let it sink in a little bit. It's a lot. The more you think about it, the more you kind of just let go of some of the hang-ups that you might have about it. Yep. You see the core of what's in the movie, and it's good. It's a good movie. And honestly, I think the tomato meter's a little low.
It is low.
I think it should be in the 80s.
I think people were just turned off by the
People were really turned off and put off by that.
And I couldn't imagine seeing this movie in a theater. I bet people walked out. I bet a lot of people walked out.
Yeah, they probably did. But you just have to stick with it. We promise. If you just stick with it, you'll love it.
Just roll with the bile. Welcome back to the spoiler section of the podcast where we can talk about more than just vomit.
All of our thoughts and feelings.
But can we just start with the vomit scene just to get it off the table?
We've got to just clear the air about this.
So the whole vomit scene starts when Woody Harrelson, who plays the captain of this ship, hosts a captain's dinner, which is when all these rich people come and they get to have dinner with the captain.
Yes, and they're formal.
And they're formal wear. Yes, and there's for some reason a baby there.
Yeah, we were like, the baby's on the yacht? Okay.
A screaming baby on the yacht. I think the last place I would bring a baby is a yacht, maybe.
Probably.
But also after the scene, I'm never going on a yacht. So you can count me the fuck out of that.
Yep.
So there's a storm, a brewing, and every single person in the room gets seasick besides Woody Harrelson and this random Russian guy.
Whom I love and
I'm
adore.
Obsessed with him.
Yes.
But when I say it's 20 people all projectile vomiting at the same time, it's 20 people projectile vomiting at the same time.
In addition to... Can we talk about it?
Yeah, you can talk about it.
In addition to projectile diarrhea.
So that was the moment in the movie where I literally screamed, "Look away!" She sat down on the toilet and I knew it was coming and I started seeing the brown shoot back and I screamed at you to look away. It was an actual scream. Like I was panicking, like somebody was like gonna shoot us.
Yes. You almost did like the mom arm in the car where you like push like the person in the passenger seat.
Yes, because I was trying to get you to look back away. It was a lot.
It was so much.
And then not only that, but the boat is rocking so much that she starts sliding around in her poop and her puke. And
naked,
her
basically.
Titties are falling out.
Yes. Of her shapewear.
Just rolling around in vomit and shit.
Just sliding around.
But here's the thing is that it was horrific to watch, but I was also laughing hysterically because there was something so wonderful about this woman sliding around in her vomit and her shit.
In her shapewear.
Because she was one of the most wonderful characters in the movie too. There's a scene where she literally forces the entire crew of the ship to go for a swim.
And she makes them go down the slide into the water and is like, wee, every time.
And it's funny because we both went to private school and we both were not rich growing up. So my mom taught at the school I went to and your parents were just like Catholic or bust.
Right.
So we went to schools with rich people and we grew up around rich people. And there's always that rich person that thinks they're being generous and giving and thoughtful, but really they're just showing off that they can do that for you. And she was that exact definition. And I thought her character was so funny.
Yes.
And then leading up to her rolling around in her shit, I was like, okay, I understand it now. Like, I understand why they went.
Yep.
They went here.
Had to.
My favorite was, my favorite line probably in the entire movie was right before she asks everyone to go for a swim. She's having this girl pour her champagne where she's sitting in her hot tub lounging.
Yes.
And this poor girl is pouring her champagne. She just goes, "We're all equal."
Yes.
And I was like, you know, it's so on the nose, but it's so accurate because, again, if you've grown up around people who are rich, it's this air of like, I'm no better than you.
Yes.
But in saying that I think I'm not better than you, I already know that you think you're better than me.
You actually think you're better than me and you're so out of touch. And that's the part I think, I mean, that was even in the bio, you know, of the movie. And I think it was so on the nose, like how out of touch these rich people were. But it was still funny as hell.
Yeah, it was really funny.
Another funny part, and this is a thing, the vomit and diarrhea scene was very long.
25 minutes at least.
It was very long, and it got very gross very quickly.
Even like the toilets back up, and so the whole
Yes.
ship fills with shit eventually.
So like all of that is happening, but there's so much funny shit packed into that whole thing that
The
it
chaos.
is that it truly is so worth the watch. There's nothing funnier to me than people falling and screaming while there's like chaotic things happening. It's just fucking hilarious.
The people sliding back and forth, like hitting the walls.
and the people falling down the staircases and like throwing up.
My favorite is the random guy that they're doing CPR on while people are screaming and falling.
Meanwhile, while all of this is happening, Woody Harrelson
And our
and this
favorite
old
Russian
Russian
guy.
dude get shit-faced together and start reading Karl Marx over the over the PA system of the yacht.
I'm gonna say that was my favorite scene. Period.
Dude.
And it starts like you didn't see them go to the office to speak on the loudspeaker.
Right.
So it starts in like a shot where there's like this man just throwing up in the hallway and just in absolute distress. And then you hear this Russian voice over the like loudspeaker, and he's just like,
The ship is
the ship is going down.
yes.
So basically he's joking that the ship is
Yes.
crashing, but then they start actually reading from like the works of Karl Marx. It was so funny.
Dude, that was one of the funniest scenes I've seen in a movie in a long time.
Both he and Woody Harrelson were so great in that
my
scene.
god, and their chemistry together, just their
Amazing.
comedic chemistry
Yeah.
was part of what made it so funny.
Yeah.
It was so believable. Like they were just like two old drunk men talking about their political views and just shouting it over the loudspeaker. It was just like, of course.
Like, of course, while like the whole world is burning down, there's two like white drunk guys just talking about politics. Like it was so on the nose, but so funny.
So funny.
Dimitri, that's his name.
Oh my god, Dimitri, we love you.
The ship eventually gets attacked by pirates, which they blow the ship up with weapons created by these two old people who are arms dealers.
Yes.
When she picks up the grenade and she goes, "Oh, it's one of ours," right before.
Yes. Okay, Google, stop. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Our shawarma's ready.
Our shawarma. Get the shawarma. I will say that after the ship goes down from the pirates, that's when like my favorite part of the movie started, which is them surviving on the island together.
Yes.
However, I will say that one of the biggest reasons why it took me like a little while to think about this movie and to get over like the hangups that I had was that I had a slight issue with how on the nose the roles were that they took on the island.
Mm-hmm. It was a very literal.
It was extremely literal. Mm-hmm. And I think if there weren't such great performances and such hilarious shit that happens on the island, I think I would have like hated this movie. But they did such a good job at like keeping you laughing the entire time. Like them fighting over pretzel sticks.
Oh my god.
And eventually when we find out that there's been a resort right around the corner the entire time, like hilarious.
Incredible.
Now here's the real question though.
Okay.
Do you think Abigail kills Yaya at the very end?
Yeah.
You're like, that bitch got smacked.
Yeah, I think she did. It looked like she was about to just smack the shit out of her with that rock. Not gonna lie.
So the thing that I was thinking though, and I also agree that she probably killed her, and I also feel like that last scene that we saw of Carl running through the jungle was he's about to get killed too.
Yeah.
And Abigail's just killing all of them off, I guess.
Yeah.
But the thing that I didn't really understand was that there was a scene where Dimitri told Abigail that he'll make her life very nice after they get off the island. And I feel like she could have used that. Like, I feel like killing Yaya was such an extreme measure because they discovered that they're at a resort the whole time.
Right.
And so Abigail, afraid that she's going to go back to a life where she doesn't have power, where she doesn't have money, where she doesn't have this beautiful sugar baby boyfriend or whatever, kills Yaya. We're assuming, they don't actually show it. And I was thinking to myself, but she's made these people survive.
Right.
And Dimitri literally told her, I will make your life better when we get off this island, basically. Yeah. And so I kind of questioned the motivation there. It felt a little extreme. Like, I'm not sure if Abigail herself would have really done that.
Right.
But the biggest plot hole for me was, why in a giant safety raft were there only 2 cases of water?
Yeah, and one singular box of individually bagged chips.
1 box of chips, and then like a secret stash of pretzel sticks.
Yes, and just a box of Evian.
I feel like personally, if I owned a yacht and I had a giant safety container ship that can sustain high winds and danger, I would probably line the entire floor with water, and I would put protein bars or
beef jerky, something.
What?
Pretzel sticks and chips.
My favorite was Paula, who's like the head stewardess.
Yes.
When she sees that the boat pulls up, she's like, oh, they have crisps. And then they pass out this box of chips, and they're all sitting on the beach eating chips. And I was just thinking to myself, why wouldn't they pack that ship a little bit?
I guess maybe though, like if we're going to continue with all of the literal themes, like maybe that was just also a nod to like they're so out of touch that they don't even know how to prepare for a disaster. Right. Like this, whoever owns this yacht is so rich that they don't even know what you would need if you, and they probably think because they're so rich that something like that would never happen to me.
Right.
Like they don't think that they're ever going to actually use that. Right. So it's just like throw some chips and water in there. I don't fucking know. Like that is kind of the biggest takeaway of this movie for me is, yes, it was extremely on the nose. The themes were like shouting at you,
they were shitting at you,
like literally throwing up in your face and shitting on you. Like that's how obvious they all were. But I do think that it somehow worked. It just worked, and it panned out well. And I think all in all, it still was a great story.
Yeah.
And I think because that was at the center of it, and there were such good characters that really held up well, that you could relate to, and that we've probably all experienced an encounter with someone like these people.
Right.
And so I think that's why it worked, because it was a little over the top.
Right.
It was a little zany. He made some weird choices for sure.
Absolutely.
But it was also real. And I think that's what worked, because you have to have something to connect with. You have to have some sort of something to ground it. And I think because of the characters and because of the story and some of the writing, that's why it's one of those movies where you're like, huh, you know what? he did something there. He really did something.
On first watch, at first opinion, you're not gonna understand fully what you just watched, or you're going to want to throw. My stomach was actually turned.
No, I was like physically nauseous.
I was very sick.
I was unwell.
But as you
just push through it. It's fine.
Push through. Once you process this movie, and again, like you were saying, looking back on this like cast of characters, I feel like it did what The Glass Onion wanted to do, where it wanted to have these really over the top, specific, like very niche type of people.
Yes.
But this movie was so successful at doing that. And there wasn't a single actor in this entire movie that I thought was bad or awkward or didn't, do their role to the T. And I mean down to like every single extra who was
even
on
the people
ship.
Who were like the crew of the ship were incredible.
It felt like a very real. It felt like I was watching an episode of like Below the Deck.
Yes. Oh my god.
That just about does it for us. We're about to pound some shawarma. Honestly, we're just ready to go. But I'm very excited first to announce a very special episode that we have coming up. It is going to be 2 weeks from now, so it will not be next week. It'll be the week after, on March 10th. We are going to do our first video episode, so you actually get to see our faces when we record, but you also see some other faces because we're going to have some panelists, some really special people that we've invited to come on the ride home, and we're going to talk about all things Oscars. So we're going to go over the nominations, who we think is going to win, the snubs, and basically it's just going to be like a pregame show for the Oscars.
So it's going to be like, what's the ESPN thing that they call College Game Day? Yeah, it's gonna be like College Game Day, but for the Oscars.
You just showed how Southern you are because that's what you went to, was College Game Day. So little Southern belle.
Oh, well, here that is what we watch. We don't watch pregame for the NFL.
I know. Well, it's gonna be College Game Day, but for the Oscars. We're so excited, and we'll see you guys on March 10th. Can't wait. All right, everybody, have a great weekend, and we'll see you then.
Thanks for joining us on the ride home.